know you're crazy, but I only wanna be with you. You think I'm shady cause I'm out here trying to make some moves, but it ain't like that. Just know that I'll be right back. I'll give you all my time just to let you know you're mine. It ain't nothing, promise I'ma do it all to give you something. This love I got is only for you. You're my comfort, my future husband. I'ma give you all my heart, yeah, all of it, yeah. Baby, I know that I gotta come fix it. You the only nigga that I be missing. Swear I'm coming home to give you the business. Turn off my phone, it can leave me a message. I'ma just cover your body with kisses, kisses. Rub your body down, you know that I miss it, miss it.
Close your eyes, close your eyes. Relax your mind, relax your mind. Fantasize, fantasize. Come with me.
If you wanna go far, far, let me take you to the stars, the stars. We don't even need a car, a car. If you wanna go to Mars, I'll take you there. Have you ever seen the clouds up close? Take a deep breath, baby, let's go. What's your desire? I'm your supplier. I'll get you higher, higher. Cause girl, I promise I can take you there. So take you there when you're ready to go. Cause girl, I promise I can take you there. Take you there. I'm gon' take you there, baby. Baby, you can play low with lane. When you need me, I can be your Superman. Your Superman. Lazy lovers never let you spread your wings. While you're sleeping, you'll be calling out my name. If you wanna go far, let me take you to the stars. We don't even need a car. If you wanna go, when you're ready to go. Cause girl, I promise I can take you there. So take you there when you're ready to go. Cause girl, I promise I can take you there. Take you there when you're ready to go. I can picture you and me, making love above the breeze. Making love on the cloud. We don't plan on coming down. It's the place where we're alone, even though the stars are gone.
We interrupt this broadcast for an emergency announcement.
Excuse me, lady, how you doing? Have my baby. I'm just screwing around, I'm crazy. Baby girl, I'm night and day. And you girl, don't stop your loving. Every time you stop the front and I'll pop your oven. You should in fact stay. Could be that way, I'm good in that way. Hood in that way, I'll be your lover. Your favorite color, we out of space and we breathe each other. You're in the tantrum, I got the answer. I twist your back up, it's hard to stand up. I'm yours, it's on. Yes, baby girl, you with Sean. Ride with a dawn. Foreign languages, let's play pong. Take off your outfit and let's be gone.
I got you in the zone, in the zone. So far gone, I swear your mind is blown, mind is blown. Did your heart just skip a beat? So high up, I know it's hard to breathe. When you're ready to go, cause girl, I promise I can take you there. So take you there. Now when you're ready to go, cause girl, I promise I can take you there. Take you there. When you're ready to go, I'll take you there. Don't you be scared. When you're ready to go, just close your eyes. You're in for a ride. I'm going to take you there.
One of them bad boy things. Donnie, Klang.
She love it when the bass goes.
All right, all right. Welcome to Happy Hour with Lito. I am your host. You know what I mean? I got another special guest today. Singer, songwriter, producer, my guy, Donnie Klang. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on the show. You know what I mean? I really appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? So, first and foremost, the way I usually start off, just conversations is like, I don't really like to have interviews. I do conversations. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Yeah.
So, I always ask, my guests and everything, being at the times that we're in, I am an advocate for mental health. You know what I mean? And, you're in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, during this pandemic, everyone's, struggling with their mental, you know what I mean? And I know in New York, in the beginning, it was really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, how have you and your family been able to pull through this?
Yeah. So my personal story with this whole thing is a little crazy because I got married about 2 years ago. We were trying to have a baby.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. We were trying to have a baby. It was way harder than I thought it was growing up. If I would have knew it was this hard, I might have had more fun back in the day. But we were trying for a while, and then finally, God blessed us. We were due. We were due in April of last year, and then our baby was born 3 weeks early on March 15th of last year. So we went into the hospital. It was right when like the news was starting to like get a little crazy about all the COVID and pandemic. And we were hearing all these words and we were like, we hope the hospitals are all right. And thankfully I was allowed in. If she was a week later, I wouldn't have even been allowed into the hospital.
Wow.
And then we were allowed no visitors. And then they kind of rushed us home even. They didn't want us to be in the hospital too long and chance getting sick. The hospital we were in ended up being one of the main hospitals in New York taking in COVID patients. So it was crazy. And it was like we went in without a kid and in a normal world, and we came out of that hospital with a newborn baby, and the world was flipped upside down. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that is crazy.
The positive side of all that was I was able to be home for those next 3-4 months, quarantined and helping like raise the baby and take care of those first few crazy months where there's no sleep and baby's crying, you don't know what's going on. And my wife was having a lot of like postpartum depression, and she was getting real depressed from the whole quarantine. Like family couldn't visit. We were missing like holidays, and it was weird because now we have this baby that we were so excited to like share her with family and stuff. And so she was getting pretty depressed. So thankfully I was able to be home with her for those few months.
Wow. I know how, that is because I actually got engaged 2 years ago.
Wow.
Was supposed to get married last year. Thank you.
Man.
And, had to push the wedding out to this year, hoping that it'd be some sort of.
Yeah.
And then, so we chose a
date right now.
So we chose a date, right? The first date that we chose, they were like, I don't know, because where we're having it at, like, see, I'm in Ohio, but we're going to have it, like, she's from Philadelphia.
Okay.
So we're going to have it in Virginia, like Virginia Beach. We wanted a beach wedding, you know what I mean? Didn't really want to go to Florida because, it's crazy down there.
Yeah.
That's COVID central.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we were like, let's do it in Virginia because her like one of her parents are from Virginia.
Yeah.
Her dad. So I was like, cool, Virginia Beach, that's cool. It'll be like a little, you won't have to worry about too many people. You know what I mean? But just so we chose June for this year, but then they said, well, if you choose June, right now, the state mandate is only going to allow you to have 10 people at your wedding.
Oh my God.
And we was like, what?
Oh God,
so
that's crazy.
Next thing I knew, and we've been doing this since, just think like, cause it was canceled last year, moved to this year. Yep. We've been going back and forth with the hotel resort and everything ever since.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts to plan. It's crazy.
I know. So then they said, well, you can have 15 people outside, right? But then when you go into the reception, 25 people outside. But then when you go into the reception, only 15 people can be in. So you're telling us, so we was like, okay, so you're telling us that we have to tell 10 people that they can't come in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that going to work? They're going to come and be outside with us. And then next thing you know, like, we got to tell them, we sorry, y'all, but y'all can't come in. You know what I'm saying?
What do they do? Wait?
Right, exactly. Are you saying that they got to wait to come in and if somebody come out? Like, that's not, you know what I mean? And what's a reception with 10 people? That's a get together. That's not a wedding reception. So we was like, you know what? We're just hoping, we've been praying and everything. So then we chose another date, right? We chose this date. We had chose August 21st. They gave us this date. Well, come to find out, while we were confirming everything here, we did this in February 27th. We've been confirming that, that's the date that we're good. One of the ladies emails us and says, we're sorry, that date's already been given up. Oh, so yesterday was crazy. I'm talking about yesterday. Everything has finally
locked in.
Yeah, everything's locked in. September 24th.
Okay. So I'm meant to be, I feel like. So how many people will you be allowed for that date?
They saying that we should be able to have the normal 75. Okay. We don't want more than 75.
Yeah.
I can do 50. You know what I'm saying?
It's been impossible. Growing up is very hard. You don't really get warned about these types of things growing up. Like, I don't know. My parents are divorced, so I have like two sides of my family, which always makes small get-togethers never small, because it's like, how do I invite this one without this one? And then like I have my mom and my stepmom, and I have then my wife's parents are divorced also. So it's like we have 4 sets of families that we need to. So our bare minimum is like 50 people.
Is everyone in New York?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
I had an aunt move down to South Carolina. People seem to be fleeing New York little by little. Had a friend go to Arizona, and because it's expensive here. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I know, like, I think we were looking at Brownstone there. It's like,
yeah, no, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Taxes are crazy. Yeah, it's crazy up here.
So, for the people who, don't really know a lot about you, you know what I mean? Tell us a little bit about your story before the making of the band situation.
Yeah, so I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I always loved music, from my first little Sony playing the Michael Jackson cassette tapes, and I grew up on 90s R&B. I feel like it was the best time to grow up on music because, we had a chance. How old are you?
37.
30, yeah, so I'm 36. So we're the same generation. So it's like we had a chance to like live in that in between where we had life before technology. We had the greatest music of all time.
Facts.
From the hip hop, especially growing up in Brooklyn, huge Biggie fan. I was a closet Tupac fan because we weren't allowed to be growing up in Brooklyn, but I always loved Tupac, especially Dear Mama. That was like me and my mom's song back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So music was always a huge influence in my life. And then, as I got older and we were growing up in this age of technology coming along, I would get my first keyboard from Radio Shack, and it had the little things where you can make beats right on it. And then that escalated to then computers started to really get big. And I had, back then it was Fruity Loops. It was just this little stupid program you would plug in and play where you want the kick and the snare. And I sang in groups growing up. This was also around the days of like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. So we started our own little boy band. And we got signed with Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad.
Okay.
This happened probably like 4 or 5 years before the whole making the band situation. And we were signed with him. We were all minors, so our parents and lawyers had to all be heavily involved. And we learned from a young age about the crazy side of the music industry. because here we were at the time, he was one of, if not the biggest manager in the business.
Right.
And this also was the time when Beyonce was going solo from Destiny's Child. So we were just a small pea on his plate, trying to like build a fan base and doing it mostly on our own. And then our friends in school heard, oh, we got to deal with Sony and Beyonce's dad. But then things weren't happening for us. So we caught that backlash of like, you know, learning from a young age, don't tell too many people what's going on until it actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all development. We learned so much. It was, some of those years were my favorite years of my life, singing in the groups and doing a little bit of traveling and harmonizing with the guys. Like it was just, that was some of the best years.
Word. So fast forward, how did you end up being a part of MTV Making the Band?
So then the Making the Band audition, our group started to, so it was tough. Now you're talking about the years of like you graduate high school, and we've been pursuing it since like 9th, 10th grade. Like, when are we going to give up on it? So my mom, thankfully, was always very supportive of, and my whole family was very supportive of me going forward with music. But now we're at that age, some of the guys in the group, their parents were forcing them to like make that college decision or go get a real job, or like, what are you doing? You guys are just messing around in your rooms recording. Like, what are you guys doing? This isn't a future. So our group broke up, and then I auditioned. I just went to an open call audition for Making the Band. Back then it was MySpace.
Yeah.
And somebody submitted my MySpace to actually skip the line for the audition. So that was day one. I was able to skip the line, and then I was in there, and that first day I felt so positive because here I was looking like this cool dude. I dressed as famous looking as I possibly could. I got to skip the line. Everybody was like, who is this getting to skip the line, whatever. And I went in, it was Mike Bivens and
Legend.
Encore, the vocal coach. I was like, Mike, I'm a huge fan. They're like, what you got for us? I sang like 2 lines. They were like, you're good. Come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. And it was like a breeze. It was amazing. Now the next day, they narrowed it down from that, however, 100,000 people that were waiting outside to like the top 200-ish from the New York tri-state area. And now there was no cut in the line. There was the next day was Lorianne Gibson, who she was very hard. And now I'm in a room with the top, most talented, amazing singers I've ever been around in my life. And like that whole experience, even those first few days before we really even made it into the house and everything, was amazing. I still keep in touch with some of those guys because they were just, the talent was just so like raw and real, and everybody was passionate about trying to make it into on the show. And we didn't know what it was going to be, if it was going to be a R&B group, pop R&B group, if it was going to be like, were they going to match us up with the girls from the previous season? Like, we didn't really know.
Right.
So we just bonded over that, and then just like kids with a dream. We were just so young and like with a dream. That first season was the best season because we were all still like, I mean, I don't want to say naive, but it was just, we were young and we were just like living it and loving it. And we were learning so much. It was, the learning experience of it was amazing. That was probably the last of like true artist development. After that, the whole social media age started to really explode, and you got a lot of one-hit wonders or people that didn't really have like that development behind you. You kind of just had to either do it yourself or come off a TV show, or you needed something to happen for you to really make it. Back then it was like you could get signed off of talent and they would develop that talent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you had these acts coming out that were sustainable and they would last a long time.
So did they have you? It looked like, so the first season, it was like being in a college dorm when it was like a ton of, like how many in a house?
So we had, I think it was 20 people to start to move into the house. And then that was my college experience. When I look back, that was my dorming. That was like fighting over the showers and who was trying to go in and who wasted the hot water and like who was bunking with who. Like that was my college experience. Going to the gym with everybody, playing basketball. Like that was, I went to college for a little bit, but I dropped out to pursue Making the Band. So I look back in my head, this is now 12, 13 years ago. That feels to me like it was my time in college. Because not only that, but then we were learning. They did have us on kind of like this structure too, where we would like go to a choreography class, go to a vocal lesson, go to the studio. We had like our times, we had to be places. So it felt like college. And there was 20 of us in the house. And then as we went through the process, probably one of the most famous scenes is where, and we've been getting ripped on, like a bunch of dudes singing to each other in a house.
Oh, the end of the road scene.
Yeah, that scene was, we finally were narrowed down to like the top 10 or 12. And Diddy brought a whole new batch of people to go against us to now refill the house back up to 20. So here we were like 3-4 months into the audition process, living in the house, all the fights and whatever would happen, like the frustration of living with people that you don't know for that long. And then he brought in this whole new group of people, and that's what that scene was. That's like, you could really, the Making the Band fans that really watched the show could feel us singing through that. Like, we don't want new people coming into the house. We're like, this is our house. Like, how are you going to move people into our house?
Facts.
Yeah.
I remember that scene because Brian was
Yep.
He started it off.
Yeah, he stepped up.
Yeah.
And then what happened for the other group, because we did end up becoming friendly with them too, but just at first it was a clash. But I think it wasn't their strongest singer that stepped up either. And we were just sitting there like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is what you just cut whoever from last week and you're bringing in this guy? Like, come on.
Yeah. And yeah, the song that he was singing.
Yeah, no, it was not good.
Yeah, not at all. Not if you battling.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you battling, are you are you close with anybody still?
I've stayed in touch with a bunch of them. We were trying to do something last year during the quarantine, but it was just hard to put it together because some people didn't have access to studios or they didn't have a little home set up to do their parts. But the top 10 that made it to the finale where the group got chosen and I got chosen solo, we were in touch and we were trying to do this like reunion thing and then also just like help build awareness to everything that's been going on the past year.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it. I laid down the whole new piano to the exclusive. We were going to do it like 2020 style, brand new, a little bit even more like of an R&B-ish flair to it. And a bunch of us laid down the vocals, but since everybody couldn't do it, we're probably going to wait till now the next anniversary of that finale date.
Word.
Together.
So when it comes to to music, I know you mentioned Mike earlier, but who are some of your idols that you listened to growing up?
Yeah, so I mean, Boyz II Men was probably number one. I used to write them fan mail asking if I could replace when their Mike in their group, the bass, when he was quitting, I was like, can I please replace him? I was just 8-year-old white kid. But yeah, Drew Hill was big.
Facts.
Jodeci. I grew up on all of them. Even like H-Town, all of those as yet. Any one of those, So For Real, any one of those 90s R&B groups is what I really, really grew up on.
That's a fact. I remember those days. The music not like that no more.
No, it's not. It was just real.
So your first album, Just a Rolling Stone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was a good album. Like, my favorite song on there was Pick It Up.
Mm-hmm.
That was my joint. I can't lie.
Yes.
and Dr. Love was dope too. So was Diddy really hands-on with that album, or did he allow you to kind of like use your creative juices and bang out some good stuff?
It was so he definitely executive produced the album, which means he would kind of put the pieces together, fall back, and then come in at the last second, move a little fader, and claim his 80% or whatever he would take just for doing that little fader move. But I mean, and this is just generic as a brand new artist getting signed. I didn't have that much creative control. I wish I had more. Because like I said, at that time, it was MySpace. You were able to just release your own songs. And some of these songs I just did out of my bedroom. The quality wasn't that great, but it was more real of what I was doing.
Right.
And it was probably more on like like a John B kind of like pop R&B vibe, where it was more like a Neo, so like So Sick. That was probably the lane that I was in. And then, as amazing as my album was, it probably wasn't like genuine of who I was. And songs like I lived in and loved it, and I toured with those songs, and I had an amazing time, and like they were all amazing. And I think back, and it was like filming the Take You There video with Diddy. We were in LA. It was like a 48-hour shoot. And there was the one scene where we were partying. We literally were partying there. It was like, it was amazing. But I wish if I could go back, if I could have did songs that were more like Pick It Up was probably closer to the sound and style that I would have did. But the other part of this was I was also heavily influenced by one of the producers I worked with. His name is Seven. There were some scenes on Making the Band with me and him. He was very eclectic. He was very like Prince style.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up kind of like honing in and developing me into this sound. And then a bunch of those songs didn't make it onto my album. So the one key song was the song Rolling Stone. And the name of the album was just Rolling Stone off of that song and that style. And then whatever happened on the business end, I think between Puff and Seven, a bunch of those songs didn't make it into the album. And this is like ninth inning. Like we had the track list ready. Those songs were probably going to be more of the first single songs. And then they got stripped off the album. They got replaced with more like fillers to me. Mm-hmm. And that was probably one of the first mistakes that was made back then.
Mm. So what happened to like, do you have those albums? I mean, you have those songs still?
I think some of them ended up getting leaked on YouTube, but it's not the same when it didn't have like the major label push behind it and
mm-hmm.
doing a video for it, running to radio with it. And so people loved it. And a lot of the comments, I look back, they were like, why wasn't this on the album? Why wasn't this the first single? I even had merch made that when we did the Making the Band tour, at that point, those songs were part of the album. And we were selling these merch. One of the songs, it was a little stupid looking back. It was called Spank Me. And we had booty shorts we were selling to girls on tour that said Spank Me on the back of them. And we sold out of those. I had like a bunch of t-shirts that we had too. We didn't sell any of those. We sold all of those shorts.
Of course.
And then that song didn't make the album. So it was like, there was a lot of like business mistakes that were made back then.
Mm. The Dr. Love song to me seemed like it was more on a Justin Timberlake kind of feel.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really you.
It was, and I mean, he was one of the ones I grew up listening to also, but it's like, I don't know. It's one of those weird situations where it's like, if you have a singer coming out and they're too much like Whitney Houston or they're too much like Mariah Carey, it's like, I mean, I guess those are they're older legends, but at the time it was like Justin was in his prime.
Right.
So now you're talking about like how you can't really like recreate that, especially he came off of a Disney show. He has this established fan base since he was like 10 years old. He was in one of the biggest groups of all time. He had one of the most amazing spinoffs into a solo career. So it was like, I should have been in this different lane. Like, especially somebody like a John B, where it had been over a decade since he was out. There was
That'd have been perfect.
There was a gap for that in music at that point.
Mm-hmm. So, looking back at everything, were you glad that you ended up being a solo artist, or, did you think that you should have been a part of Day 26? Because you kind of you were like extended.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at the grand scheme of things, it was them and it was you.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I look back and, that first season, we all kind of had this thought in the back of our head of who the group was going to end up being. And I think it might have been on a more 112 route, but there was like 4 or 5 of us that kind of fit that. And I was in that group. And we would always say, like, it's probably going to be this. It's probably going to be this. And who knows? You never know. It's hard to, like, speculate. But who knows if it would have been bigger that way. for all of us as a brand. I do look back, and even those next few years, I feel like I was part of the group. That was probably a blessing and a curse for me too, because a lot of my radio promo, a lot of my marketing that the label was sending me to do was kind of like tailing off of Day 26's promo tour. So it was like, here we were sitting in these radio interviews. The guys would get asked all these questions, and then right at the end, it would be like, Donnie, and what happened with this? And it would be like a 30-second little tag along, and then it would be like, all right, everybody sing, and it would be like I would just jump in on a harmony with their group. So I was almost like another member of the group.
Mm-hmm.
So it had its pros and its cons. We were all like brothers. Like, we stayed in touch till this day.
Yeah, I've been following most of y'all since, I mean, if not on Twitter or whatever, like since the show, you know what I'm saying? And I got cool with, as far as like Facebook and stuff like that, with Brian.
Yeah.
And Brian's pretty cool. I haven't been able to get him to do an interview though. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's because he knows I'm probably going to ask about the group.
Yeah.
No longer with the group, and he probably don't want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Probably. Yeah.
But you know, your fans, I feel like your fans, like people that followed you guys to like when you guys first started, they want to know how you doing. They want to know, like, you know, certain questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 100%. Day 26 to me could have been one of the biggest groups. I mean, they could all sing really well.
Yep.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were great together as far as, you know, musically. I know they had their problems. You know what I mean? But I was going to ask you about that too. Like, you know, MTV, reality TV likes to paint a certain picture. You know what I'm saying? They want to show like, okay, yeah, these people are, you know, they're making music and they're going through life and, you know, trying to balance this whole thing. And then at the same time, they're going to show you that dark side. You know what I mean? Was it really as bad as they show, like even with the girls?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Were things a lot like, were they like that really? Or did MTV kind of make it look worse than it really was?
It's hard. It's tough to think back because it's like, I remember what actually happened in some of the situations, but now it's kind of been so long that I'm like, I more so remember what they aired because that's what we got to watch. And like, if I watch reruns with my family or something, like I'm almost like remembering that as like an alternate truth compared to what actually happened. Right. But I do remember certain situations where it was like, especially for like the commercials or the teasers to the episodes, they would use a sound clip from a whole different thing. Like it would be like, if I had to back my head to the camera and I said something, they would make it look like I said something else by taking this clip of something else. Like maybe we were in the gym and I was like, God damn it, I can't stand this. And they would use that in this clip where it would make it look like I was fighting with somebody. So, I mean, the magic of editing, definitely. And they had to do it, I guess, too, because, you know, nobody's going to watch a show with people just getting along happy all the time. Like, they needed some of the drama, especially to fill that like MTV reality show demographic that we kind of had. And then I think some of that would lead into more fights in the future, because then you'd have this like alternate reality of what happened and it would air. And then like, I feel like it was Q and Brian, maybe, I forget exactly who it was, but I remember they got into one of their fights, and I feel like it was because of the way the show was twisted and the way it aired.
Yeah, Q seemed like I remember this one vividly. He was just struggling with I think when he started dating Dawn, a lot of the problems, or at least on TV, it seemed like started to happen. Like even in the girls group, like I mean,
could be anytime you start to mix those relationships, it would always get weird.
Was Aubrey really crazy? Like, was she really off the chain?
You know what? Looking back, she was very smart because she knew how to handle reality TV. It was like you got to use it for what it is. And here I was trying to just be genuine to myself, and like I wasn't looking for confrontations or arguments. Somehow I'd find my way into some of them sometimes, but it was like the show would pull that out. Like Aubrey really knew how to, like the way reality TV would manipulate us, she was able to manipulate reality TV. And she made like a career out of it. She's been on a whole bunch of these shows. I think she was on that Donald Trump show, The Apprentice. I think she was on that. She was on a whole bunch of shows, and she's been able to extend that little reality 15 minutes of fame into 15 years.
Facts.
Willie too.
Willie too? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, anytime that I see any of y'all on something, I check it out and I make sure you know what I'm saying? I think I saw Aubrey on what is that? That New Jersey show.
Jersey Shore, maybe?
Jersey Shore, yeah. Wasn't she on there, I think?
She might have did like an appearance on it or something like that.
I thought I saw her, bro.
The problem for me was I had an opportunity to do a few shows through the years, and I was still teetering the line of like, if I really come back out, I don't know if I want that to be my brand.
Mm-hmm.
And like, who knows, if I would have did it, maybe I'd have more followers right now, but I don't know if it would necessarily be like what I would have wanted. And then some of the shows were like X on the beach, and they were asking me to come and do the show. I think that was another one Aubrey did. And I know that probably would have ripped my actual real life marriage apart, because who knows, like how she would try to make a TV moments out of it. And maybe, I mean, there was stuff that happened back in the day, like God only knows what would come out, especially in today's world.
Right.
Something from 15 years ago could come back and bite you in the butt. It's almost like, I like being on this end a little better.
Yeah, I like being to myself. Don't put me on that show.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So, man, I just want to, I was going to piggyback back to what you were saying about the editing.
Mm-hmm.
They do that still to this. Like they'll play a clip or something on TV, and then my fiance be like, "I bet they ain't even say that." In regards to that certain clip, you know what I'm saying? So
it's true. It's probably more likely than not.
Yeah, it's just to keep you tuned in. When I look back at the MTV Making a Band series, even with the first season when they were just had the rappers, I feel like a lot of it just showed how, like, you know what I mean, by not sticking together, like as far as the groups, you can take an opportunity and it can be gone just like that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the girls could have been their music was crazy. You know what I'm saying?
They were too. They cracked that hard plane that is the hardest to break through, where you're playing on major radio. That's a very hard thing to break through. And they were there, and they had the #1 song in the world with Damage.
Yep.
And I don't know. Part of it to me feels like it could have just made for good TV for Puff to come in and break it up while it was there. Because here we were in our like 3rd or 4th season of our Making the Band 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you saw the ratings going down every season. It wasn't the best season. Is always that first season, where it's like everybody's fighting for their life. Everybody's hungry. Everybody's still humble. Like then you get to that point where people think they're bigger, or like it just doesn't feel as like real as that first season. So here we were in our 4th season, and that's when I think the 3rd and 4th season, that's when all of that hit the fan with the girls and the guys. And it was just like, now it felt like it was just being strung out, and they needed these moments to try to just make it a TV show.
Facts.
Looking back, I don't know. It might have been like for TV, some of that. And then when the TV cameras go off, the group is broken up, and there's real contracts that are being ripped up here. And it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is a crazy situation. Talk about a little bit about the day when, he pulled y'all into the office and he decided to tell everybody that what he was doing with him, and he made sure he told you like, you're doing the solo project, and then everyone else like, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? Talk about like how that whole just the situation, and like he got up and left right after that, right?
Yes. Yeah. Damn. I almost like blocked that one meeting out of my mind, actually. And I remember it was on the show because there were so many things that happened. Like it's hard to remember what was on the show and what wasn't on the show. But like, yeah, that was crazy. And here I was, I'm trying to look out for my own career, but then I felt terrible. Like supposedly it was me and Don that was going to be moving forward with careers because he was pulling Don into his group at that time, Dirty Money.
Right.
And then it's just like, what am I supposed to say? Meanwhile, I was trying to salvage my own career at that point. I was trying to get picked up for a second album, trying to get a new budget going, trying to make sure I wasn't going to get shelved. And that was a crazy moment. And especially when he got up and walked out, I'm like, all right, maybe this isn't just for TV. Like, I don't know, because there's a lot of stuff that happens where, he gave us all this opportunity. So if he feels like somebody either doesn't deserve it or appreciate it, like it's in his hands to pull it away from you too. Like he who gives could take.
That's true. That's true.
It was tough. That whole situation was tough. I actually ended up, this is a year or two later, I was still stuck in my deal. They weren't opening up the budget for the second album, but I also wasn't able to be released. And I had another deal on the table with Def Jam at the time. This is like 2010. And my lawyer was like, listen, we'll get you out of this deal. Let me speak to Def Jam, keep moving forward. They opened up a little budget, flew me down to Atlanta. I worked with the Corner Boys. They were a big production group. I stayed with them to cut costs. I was living in the dude's house down in Atlanta for like 3-4 months. And we cut a whole bunch of songs. I came back, still wasn't out of my deal yet. They were like, what's going on here? Like, we spent this money on you now. Like, you got to get out of your deal. We got to get ready to release the stuff. And it took another like 2 or 3 years to actually get released from my deal. So that Def Jam deal was off the table. The songs get old after like 6 months. So it's crazy. The business end of everything is very cutthroat. It's very crazy. Even when you make it, you still need to give more than what you gave when you were a starving artist. It's like you think you're signed, like here it is, I made it. It's like, no, that's just the beginning.
Right. That's crazy because like what did they expect? Like they were not trying to let you make any music. So why hold you in a deal?
I know. It was crazy.
And you could have had a Def Jam album.
Yep. We had it basically cut. We were gonna go single by single. At that point, like I think the labels were starting to figure out the new industry and the new world we were moving into. So we cut like 6 or 7 songs, but they were just gonna go one at a time and make it more about consistent release of content instead of like I did this 16-song album and it's like great, it's cool, but it's probably a little more 90s style to do something like that. Although it's starting to come back for people to do that. But during like the 2010s, that whole time was just very single driven. It's like you didn't need to spend all this label budget on making a whole album and working with this one and that one. It was just like you could do it out of your room. Billie Eilish is making these songs out of her room with her brother producing them. And she's the #1 artist in the world right now. Like, you don't have to be doing it as crazy as like those in the 90s. They had these huge budgets.
Right.
And they were making crazy money because there was no way to get the songs illegally or stream them basically for free with your subscription. Like back then, if you wanted it, even if you wanted the single, you had to go to the store and buy the CD or the tape.
Yep.
Just for that tape, it was $5, $10, $15, $20 back then. So there was huge money being generated.
That's true. I kind of miss that. You know what I mean? I miss kind of going to the store and picking up a cassette tape or picking up a CD because you couldn't get it any other way.
Yep.
Kids that are born now, they don't understand.
They don't know. They could wake up and just New Music Friday. They hear it all. They like it or they don't. That's the last time they hear it. It's like if you went and bought it and paid for it and drove there and had your parents drive you there, like you're gonna play that thing until it's worn out.
Facts.
Yeah.
Especially if it was somebody that you were waiting for it to come out. I gotta have this.
It was
You
an
know.
experience too, with like the CD booklets and seeing who they thanked, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they had crazy like fan stuff that you could either like submit into. I know Drew Hill had like this thing where you were able to send them your tape if you did one of their songs in your talent show or something. You could send, that was like a little thing in one of their CD booklets.
Mm.
So it was more of an experience back then.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So 2008 is when you dropped the album, right? That's when.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You had that whole situation happen with Def Jam and everything. That's so crazy. So since then, you know, what have you been doing? Have you been making any music? Have you just been producing, or?
Yeah. So 2011, me and one of my old buddies I used to sing with, we got back in touch and we opened up a studio. At the time, this was in his, so really, really, truth be told, this was at a weird transition time for me in my life. And like 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even been open to speak about it. But this is like, okay, the shows are running out, but the bills are still here. And it's like, I'm still at that point getting recognized, but I'm not making any money. And especially the deals we signed, you signed your deal just to audition for the show. So they weren't the greatest deals to be in. So my friend that I got back in touch with had a construction company. And it was like, am I going to go get a job right now and be embarrassed, like a waiter or working in a Home Depot or something? Like, what am I going to do? And people are going to come up and recognize me, and I'm going to be in this Home Depot apron, like, oh, yeah, I'll take a picture with you. And it's like, I'm working in this low level job. So I got in touch with him, and he had his own construction business. I was doing work with him as his helper. And it was a way better way for me to be able to make some money while people, if they recognize me, I was in their house working on something for them. And I just would explain it or make up a thing like, oh yeah, I'm just here helping my friend. Like, so it was embarrassing. It was a crazy transition time in my life. And his wife owned at the time a dance studio. And we ended up doing the renovations for her studio, and she had an upstairs area that she wasn't using. So we were like, let's put a studio up here. So it was a loft. So we call our studio the Loft Sound Studio. And we opened with the intention of utilizing any network of connections that we've made in the past. At that time, few years of, he was with me when we were signed with Beyonce's dad. We had connections at Sony. I obviously had crazy new connections now, these producers and A&Rs and people that I was always friendly with, managers in the business. So we opened with the intention of, like, at that point, Justin Bieber was blowing up, finding the next Justin Bieber. So we found a 12-year-old girl so we just kind of started very randomly. Like, we just found one girl that came to us. It wasn't even really a business yet. It was just like, she would pay us a little bit. We would record. At that time, YouTube was the biggest thing. We learned how to film videos. We put her out. It led to the next kid coming to us. And then this was the third girl that came to us, Madison Beer. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's blowing up now, especially. She came to us. She was 12. She was going to this other program out here called School of Rock. And the dad was like, it's not really our style. We want her to be more like pop R&B sound. We were like, that's what we do. Like, you're in the right hands. So we developed her for like 8 months. And long story short, she got signed with Justin Bieber and his management company. And then all these videos that we did for her, Justin Bieber was sharing it. And it had our logo. It had our little studio. And it was like free advertisement from Justin Bieber for us.
Wow.
That exploded, all these kids trying to come in to be like her. And we established relationships with like The Voice, American Idol, back then X Factor, and we were helping some of these people get on these shows. And in turn, the more people that would make it onto the shows was more advertisement for our business. So I can't even believe this is about to be 10 years that we've been a studio. And we opened in a time where back then it was still a recession. Recording studios were closing because more and more up and coming artists were figuring out how to do it on their own. You could build a studio out of your house.
Right.
And we were able to maintain through those years because of the development that I was able to give a lot of these kids. Like, and I attribute most of that to the making the band situation. Like everything I learned, I was always a sponge, whether it was from the making the band stuff or actually being in studios. I worked with Timbaland's team. I worked with The Dream. I worked with like these crazy, amazing A-list producers. And I would always be sitting right there over their shoulder, like a sponge, taking it all in, trying to ask questions, learn everything I could. And then I just applied all that once we opened up here.
Word. So artist development. You
Yeah.
went into that and just wow.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of everything. We work with all different levels. Like we might have somebody that's a little more established come in, and then we might have somebody that's just like not that good, never did it before. And we just find like that sound. We find what it would be that's going to differentiate them. I mean, we get a lot of female artists. I feel like they're less shy about it. They're more like, I feel like the dudes are always like, no, it's not cool for me to do this.
Yeah.
We work with mostly up and coming female singers. We do have a handful of guys, but the girls come in and it's like we try to figure out their brand and develop them to make them different from the millions of other solo female artists that are trying to make it. Like what's going to make you different or better than Ariana? Or what's going to make you different or better than her or Kehlani or Lady Gaga? Like wherever your lane is, how can we carve you into a lane that's similar but find your own brand?
Word. That's dope, man.
Yeah, it's fulfilling. It's like I still get to do what I love, but be on the other side of it.
Right. Last question. What are you listening to these days?
Oh man. So I mean, a lot of it is what I'm making for the people here, because I have to go into the car and listen to see what needs to be mixed and tweaked. But I mean, I have the baby at home. Saturday mornings are dance in the living room. She loves Bruno Mars. And I really, really have been just playing her that stuff that we just been talking about for an hour. Just trying to have her grow up on like the real stuff. And I mean, even like we love these artists. They were inspired by the 60s, 70s soul movements that happened. So I've been even playing her stuff like that. Temptations, Diana Ross. So, I mean, I kind of been listening to like more oldies lately.
Yeah, I do the same thing, man. I like Temptations. I can listen to that all day.
Yeah.
Or the Isley Brothers.
Yep.
You know, because they're from Cleveland.
Yep.
I love listening to them. Tyrese, just all that kind of. I just wish that they would bring that back. Like I miss that kind of music.
I know. I don't know if it. I mean, it's kind of back. Like every song has a sample in it, or it's taken from something. But it's like I don't know. I don't know if they'd be able to really appreciate it the way we did.
I say this: the women are killing it right now.
Yes, totally.
The fellas, y'all got to step up, man.
It's. I feel like it goes in waves.
Yeah,
it definitely goes in waves. The women are on top right now.
Definitely. I mean, she's phenomenal.
Yep.
She's killing it. Jasmine Sullivan just dropped a nice album. That album is dope.
Yep.
It's plenty of people. I mean, they're killing it right now, bro.
Yeah, I do. I have to listen to it just to stay current and relevant, especially now I do more producing. So I have to like still keep my like finger on the sound of what's relevant right now and even try to figure out what's next. But to me, I feel like the early 2000s are probably going to really start influencing the next few years of music. Because it seems like everybody's kind of taking a lot from the 80s and 90s, and it's just that's what's next chronologically. Here we are. I can't even believe it. 20 years later from the early 2000s, and it's like that stuff is to me that's like what was new, and now it's like that's 2 decades ago, and now that's gonna be the next thing that's like sampled and recreated, re-envisioned.
Word. Well, listen, man, I deeply, deeply appreciate you coming on, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
being able to talk to you. You know, everything is cool. And, you know, like I said, congratulations on your baby, your wedding, everything, bro.
Thank you. You too. Good luck. Good luck with all that.
I appreciate it, man. And
I'll put a call into Brian and tell him he should do it.
Yeah, you know, or Willie. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I see Willie doesn't have an email up, so I couldn't send him anything. So
Yeah.
I would love to talk to Willie, like just to see what what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian, I kind of I mean, like I said, we follow each other on Instagram, and he answers me back, but I just I know that's a soft
Yeah.
thing for him to, like, you know what I mean, like he don't want to talk about that.
I haven't seen him do stuff recently, probably since the group stuff happened.
Yeah.
So probably either, I don't know, he probably just doesn't want to talk about it. Like,
yeah.
But like you said, people want to know about it.
Yeah, just to, I mean, for nothing else, the people that followed you, you know what I mean, that was there, like when you first,
Yep.
we seen this group get created and we heard the music. Like I'll say myself, like when you guys' albums came out, I went to the store. I couldn't, like, the day that they were, like, I heard that you were coming out, I'm going.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's what kind of supporter that I am. You know what I mean? Now it's just, you hit a button and you download it. Like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? But just the nostalgia of,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, being able to, oh, it's coming out this day, bet 12 midnight. Oh, I'm there. I'm going to Walmart if it's open.
Yep.
Target if it's open.
Almost like the last of that too. The last generation. I feel like after that they all started shutting down, and that was it.
We have a Meyer out here that's 24 hours. Like they would sell, I would get in there at 11:59 and get that, you know what I mean? Because I just had to have it, you know what I mean? So stuff like that, I think, guys should kind of talk about it, because Day 26 hasn't dropped. They dropped their EP, but they've been saying that they're going to drop something else.
Yeah.
Not hearing nothing. Brian's like, I'm doing my own thing.
That is one of the cons of being in a group. There's always a little bit more loopholes to jump through and schedules to work around, especially now that everybody's getting older with families, and it gets harder and harder.
I think he was sick too recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Brian?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he was saying something about not feeling well. I'm not sure. So if I'm not mistaken, I think he put that up on his IG.
I'll reach out to him and see. I didn't even see that, actually.
Yeah, I think it might have been like maybe last month.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure, you know what I mean? But yeah, man. But prayers and blessings to all of y'all. I'm always going to be a supporter. You know what I'm saying? Is there anything else you want to promote outside of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, if you want to stay in touch, follow me. I'm at Donnie Klang on Instagram, especially if you are brand new, didn't know who I was before, you follow me. Follow our studio. We're at Loft Sound Studio. We're in New York. If there's any up and coming talent in this area, you want to work with us, just reach out.
Word. All right, y'all. This is the homie, Donnie Klang. I'm Lito. This is Happy Hour with Lito. Peace out, y'all.